Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to another episode here on the Sunni Defense. Today I have the pleasure of having my brother Abu Ammar with me, and he's going to be discussing and sharing his journey to the path of Ahl Sunnah. Abu Ammar comes from an Iraqi Shi'i background, and I'm sure that he has some very interesting tales to tell. Abu Ammar, take it away.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Firstly, I'd like to thank the Sunni Defense Brothers for having me here. Um, I mean, obviously, Farid has been a good friend of mine for, I think, 4 years now, and it has been a profound journey since.
MashaAllah, has it been that long?
Yeah, 4 years. Actually, do you know, it was the first of the first, 2014, I actually became Sunni. So it's actually easy to count from there. So,
Time flies, man.
alhamdulillah. It does indeed. It does. It's 4 years, and well, actually, to be honest, it was when I first left the Shia, I didn't immediately become Sunni. I think no one should. That's quite naive to think that for Shiism to be false, Sunni Islam must be true. I mean, Sunni. Sorry?
Please, before even getting to that,
Sure.
would you mind just giving us, a bit about your background before getting into that jump and that journey of self-discovery, if you don't mind? I
Of course.
mean, it seems like the chronological order is always preferred. I don't know if you have theories on that. I've seen people, build their way up.
Sure.
Yeah, but do sure, go for whatever you feel like.
Yeah,
But
sure.
I
That
would like
makes.
to start with the background, if you don't mind.
Yeah, sure, no problem. So I come from, as you said, an Iraqi Shia background. I came from quite a practicing family. I did take part in, like these Shia youth groups, and I went to Husseiniat since I remember, in fact. And I even went to a Shia school, actually, a secondary school. And my journey didn't begin when I actually first left Shia Islam. I actually started way earlier than that. It's funny, when I was in my Shia secondary school, I was always given the name, the Wahhabi, because I'd always come up with these opinions which were always somewhat in line with what the Sunnis believe in. So one example was that I believed that the Prophet ﷺ didn't know he was going to be a prophet before he was an actual prophet. And uh, I don't know if the viewers are aware that Shias actually believe that the Prophet ﷺ always knew he would be a prophet. Now, it only makes sense that, I mean, logic would dictate that the Prophet ﷺ didn't know he's going to be a prophet because of his reaction from the first revelation. So that's one example of many. And then there were certain practices and beliefs that just didn't resonate with me. So I
Uh,
reached a point where, sorry?
Apart from that, what other opinions, that you held that people called you Wahhabi for? Or of course they said it yeah, as a joke. That they didn't like really intend to
Mm,
associate you with Wahhabism or anything like that, or
mm.
was there some of that?
Uh, well, I guess it was a joke with a sort of hidden meaning behind it. Um, I mean, I'll give you another example. Is I reached a point when I was 18. I remember it was Ramadan, and some people might be aware that in Ramadan it's actually there's a date in Ramadan whereby Imam Ali was actually killed, and so they hold a sort of commemoration, and they do latam. I'm sure everybody here is aware what latam is, and I didn't. When everybody stood up to do latam, I stood there still without, hitting myself. So I remember my cousin took me out, and he said, why aren't you, why aren't you doing latam?" And I said to him that I just don't believe in it. I don't believe it's a part of Islam. I don't believe I'm getting any rewards for doing it. I don't believe it's related to Islam in any way, shape, or form. So those were the early steps, and then it was when I went to university. Actually, these. these beliefs, these doubts rather, not beliefs, it started to inflate, become, were pulling me more from Shiism to, I don't know what it was then. I reached a point where I
Before
did, yeah.
before getting into that, I'm really curious now,
Mm,
and I wouldn't be surprised if those on the stream right now have the same question.
mm.
What made you different than those that did hit themselves, or, mourning over the death of Ali? Um, how come they never second guessed it? How come they always assumed that it was a part of Islam, and why didn't you?
I mean, if one is to seriously study study the Quran and study the life of the Prophet ﷺ,
That's what's up.
and really understand what it means that, اليوم أكملت لكم دينكم وأتممت عليكم نعمتي ورضيت لكم الإسلام دينا, that after the death of the Prophet ﷺ, that's it. There's no addition to the deen. Once they understand that, I think that's the first step for them to start this awakening process, to
Mm.
see these acts of Islam, which I'm sure we all unanimously agree that came after Islam, and realize that this may, well, not even may, in fact, this is this stems from a belief which is outside the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, simply put. So I think if one's to realize that, uh, then they should understand that um, it has no foundation. So I mean, for Latom, of course, that's one obvious example. I've heard one evidence that apparently that they done Latom when after the death of the uncle of the Prophet ﷺ, but I don't believe that's an authentic hadith.
Mm.
So I think it starts from that, just to realize that after Khatm Nubuwwah, to add
Yeah.
anything afterwards is just absurd. Um,
Okay.
yeah, that's. I mean, I remember another event actually when it was. I remember specifically it was Imam Bakar's birthday, and I went to a masjid in Maida Vale. Londoners should be aware of I think it's called the Islamic Centre of England or something, and it was a Mawlid of Imam Bakr, and I I I I, I profoundly remember this. And people were singing and clapping, and I mean, I was young at the time, but even I, I, I just it did not resonate with me, that experience. A part of me was telling me that this is not part of the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. The Prophet ﷺ
That's what's
didn't
up.
celebrate any birthdays. Neither did the Imams actually. So
Right.
that that particular incident sort of awakened me more, realizing that this particular practice has no basis in Islam.
Now,
And
did you come to these conclusions on your own, or um, how did these thoughts, how did these opinions arrive to you?
oh, I mean, like I said, if one was to seriously study the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, and
That's
actually
what's up.
study the Quran, then they understand that there is no basis for these practices. I mean,
Okay.
I mean, I'm trying to avoid using this word here, but at the very least, you can say is bid'ah almost. I
Okay.
mean, I would challenge the Shia to prove how these celebrations, these commemorations, are in fact part of the Sunnah, and to prove also that it's.
Akhi, the funniest comment someone just, wrote. I don't know if this person is serious. He asked, "Is this Nakhshawani's dad?"
Actually, funnily enough, speaking of Naqshbandi, this is quite a while ago when I first left the Shia. I think this is back when Naqshbandi was still in London. He actually he invited me to have a talk with him, and because I know his brother personally, and yeah, I was invited to talk with him. I wanted to go talk to him, but apparently he went to America. But no, I'm not Nakshawani's dad. Just to clarify, no.
You do sound
That's
kind
the
of.
first time I've ever heard that, actually. Yeah.
All right, all right.
I should
Sorry
clarify.
about that. You know, we're really, and getting, deep and down into this serious story of your journey, and then
Yeah.
I just had, that comment just popped out, and
No, I
cracked
understand.
me. It just cracked
I
me up. I'm
understand.
sorry.
I
Please go.
understand. It's fine. But yeah, it's just a compilation of these. It's mostly the events, actually. I would say that pushed me away from Tashayyu the most. I mean, when you grow up, going to Husseyniyat and commemorating a a sad event every single year, and it's dug into your head, every month, because there's a death of some imam, or some Shia saint and so on, and makes the religion seem so pessimistic. No, if that's the case, you can't really look into the religion for hope. I mean, what can you get as a Shia? All the imams were oppressed, all the women were oppressed, and the Shiism is all about oppression, and the Shias were oppressed, and so on. It almost pushes you away from the deen now. If anything, I mean, Islam should have the opposite effect. Uh, I think this has a profound impact on one's psychology, actually. Now,
Right, right.
if a Shia looks through the lens in the world as a Shia, the world is black, and Imam Hussein was killed, and the Imams were butchered and poisoned and whatever, and the Imam Mahdi is to come out so that he can get revenge. Now, I mean, what would you expect if, I don't like to get into politics, but what would you expect when Shia groups take over certain areas? I mean, I don't think I need to bring up any events, but I mean, just what I'm trying to say
Well,
here is
I'm
that,
sure things would get quite depressing.
of
Please,
course,
please do carry on with what happened, on your journey. You've come through these sequences of realizations, and then you were in
mm,
university. You said you were in university, and
yeah.
things changed more then.
So university is where it happened. It was two brothers I met, and what had happened is that they found out I was Shi'i, and back then at university, the first year, and we were quite excited. And I engaged in a very fiery debate with these guys, and it was a Tunisian brother and a Kashmiri brother, I remember. And I, although I just stood my ground, although I was a Shia with doubts, I still believed in Imam, nevertheless. So I just it was a debate regarding Sahaba, but I remember they had an idea what Tashayyu was. So they had the idea of Imama and Shirk and so on. So they were digging the idea of Tawheed into me repetitively. The Tawheed and the Quran and the Sunnah. They although they kept sort of digging these ideas into me, I didn't respond to that. I didn't respond to those um, to those points. I was trying to make a point in that the Khulafa are wrong, and they should have Ali should have been the first Khalifa and so on. And but when they were sort of adamant about Tawheed and Nubuwwah and Quran, Sunnah, sort of that changed my way of thinking. It reprogrammed me in a way. I started being a Shi'i who tried to emphasize the Quran more. I tried to be a Shi'i who tried to emphasize a hadith of the Prophet more. Now, any Shi'i here I'm sure if he's honest enough, will know that. If he's sincere enough, would know that um, the Prophet's name on the Manabir, or even in circles, is barely mentioned. As an ex-Shi'i speaking myself, I can say to you, barely mentioned. I believe, at least. I mean, I reached a point where, with this memory, I was sitting in an IT room in university, and this is a point where I was really getting to my deen, but I realized I know more about Imam Ali alayhi salam, more than the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
That's what's
And
up.
I was very uncomfortable with that realization. Very uncomfortable. I mean, here on one hand you have the Prophet of Islam, the seal of the prophets, and on the other hand you have, obviously it's not to downgrade the character of Ali, but I mean, I'm sure Shia would agree with me that the importance of the Prophet ﷺ is a lot more, has a lot more weight than Ali, and to know more about Ali than the Prophet ﷺ you realize something's gone wrong. So
Right, right.
this is all. Well, I was at university. So sorry, I'm sorry to go off tangent, but my point was that I got into a debate with these two brothers, and then at one point, uh, I I I started to work on my I tried to study the Quran more, try to understand the Quran more, and you realize that there's certain verses you read, and you understand that this is not. I mean, if you read the Quran with an open heart, you genuinely come across certain verses, which, if you're sincere enough, you realize that this is not. Um, I mean, it's mutually exclusive to Sharia. So, if I can give an example,
Please, yeah.
يا يا داوود إنا جعلناك خليفة في الأرض فاحكم بين الناس بالحق ولا تتبع الهوى فيضلك عن سبيل الله. So basically, and what the verse is saying is that, O David, Prophet Dawood, we made you a Khalifa among the people. فاحكم بين الحق. So judge with what's right and what's just. ولا تتبع الهوى. So don't follow your desires. So Allah is saying, David, we've made you king, and judge people what's just, and don't follow your desires. And then the verse goes on to say that whoever follows the desires will be thrown to Jahannam. Now, we understand the Shia narrative that says that Ali should have been the first Khalifa, and because he's infallible, right? Now, taking this logic, if Dawood is also Allah chose him to be a Khalifa, one of the reasons being because he's infallible, then why would Allah also tell him not to follow his desires? Allah won't say anything in vain. And that's one. I mean, I hope I made the idea clear. That's one verse that I
Right.
came across, which sort of put it down. And then, yeah.
I just like to comment on that. What you made, the point you made is very clear, and I don't know if you've been following Bay'at al-Ghadir. I was just about to say Bayt al-Ghadir. I don't know if you've been following Bay'at al-Ghadir.
I've been hearing about them recently on Twitter. Yeah.
Yeah. So one of the guys who runs the thing was just saying a few days ago, maybe it was a week ago. He was saying that if you read the Quran, through the apparent meaning, you come out with the assumption that the prophets make mistakes and they sin and all that. And as you said, it's very, that's what you do get out of the Quran. You do get these clear. You
I
do
mean,
get
there are
these.
many verses.
Yeah.
Sorry. There are many verses which I mean, which emphasize that the prophets are just men. And even the Prophet ﷺ himself is just a man. And
Right.
so, what message is that trying to portray?
Right.
I mean, to come out later and say that, oh, they must be infallible, and it's absurd. It's actually contrary to what the Quran says. So, it's ironic that it's better this assumption, because I mean that goes against the narrative completely.
Right. Right. Do carry on, Akhi.
So,
So you start to focus more on the
sorry, yeah.
Quran, and yeah, go on from there.
So I focus more on the Quran, and even small practices like tasbih. After salah, doing tasbih, praying sunan. I'm sure. I mean, if a Shia is sincere enough, would know that. I mean, I know very few Shia that pray the sunan or nafil. Um, whereas when I go to a Sunni masjid, after say Salat al-Maghrib, everyone's praying these nafil. So um, it's after the emphasis on the more important things in Islam,
Mm-hmm.
it became, let's see what the Sunnis do, right? So before being a Sunni, I think I only prayed Salat al-Jum'ah once as a Shi'i. In case viewers are aware, Salat al-Jum'ah is not wajib for the Shi'i madhab. I believe there's an opinion that says that it's only wajib once the Mahdi comes, which I think is contrary to what the Quran says, but nevertheless. But on a Friday, I remember this clearly. I was on a Friday time. I was having lunch in one masjid, and then they were cleaning up the masjid and getting ready. So I thought there was an event going on. So it's Salat Jum'ah today, and the masjid was packed until, I mean, even outside the pathway, there are people praying in the car parks and so on. And it was very impressive, really impressive. And then before Jum'ah, you get people coming from around the city. Well, the uni I went to a small city uni, and people coming from far away, the masjid, to read Quran before Salah. Then once Salah is finished, it's it's really a contrast to when you drive up outside the Khoi Masjid. The Khoi Masjid is the masjid in London, and the doors are always closed.
Mm.
Whereas the Sunnis Masjid, the doors are always, in fact, they're open 24 hours, from Fajr to Isha. So that's something that I found it had an effect on me. It definitely did. I mean, because I remember in Ramadan, I sort of I was to take me to a masjid. My mom said that it, it, it's. I mean, yes, towards the last 10 days. I mean, everyone goes to the masjid, Sunni or Shia, but the days prior, it's not really a priority. It's. I mean, going to pray. I mean, there's opinions in Sunni Islam say that praying Jama'ah is wajib in the masjid. This is not the case at all, which 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 is, I think, part of the reason why I was really moved by seeing Sunnis praying Jama'ah all the time, 5 times a day in Salat al-Jum'ah. Especially if somebody who takes his, I mean, I'd like to think back then I used to take my religion quite seriously. So I took upon the practice of praying Salat in Masajid, Jama'ah, although I had the turba with me. I mean, I have a funny story. I actually, it was summer in Ramadan. This is after my uni experience, and I had what I started to do is I started to drop some Shi'i beliefs and picking up some Sunni. I was a confused mix of some madhahib at one point. I didn't believe in infallibility, but I believed in imama. I mean, I don't think it would be accurate to call myself a Shi'i then.
So
So what I
it
had
was
done,
verses in the Quran that led you to rejecting infallibility, first of all?
well, I mean, it's more than that. I think to say someone's infallible, there is there is a sort of deduction to say that they are not held accountable in the day of judgment. Why would they be if they're infallible? That's what logic would dictate, and that goes against what the Quran would say. I mean to say that Imam Baqir, Imam Sadiq won't be judged on the day of judgment, I think uh, it was something that I found strange. I mean, it's one thing to say that Prophet ﷺ might not be judged on the day of judgment because he's the Prophet of Islam, fine, but to then extend it to these 12 individuals. I mean, since we're on the topic, I mean, it was mainly Imama. It's quite ironic because it was Imama that kept me Shi'i, in essence, but it was because of Imama I actually left the Shia, which is a topic I think is which I'd like to delve into at one point.
Yeah. Go for it. Go for it. I don't know if you want to go for it right now or if you want to keep it till afterwards. It's your call.
I'll wrap up the story. I mean, I don't want to
Okay.
bore the viewers with my biography, but
No,
and
not at all. The numbers would be dropping. Alhamdulillah, we're around 30. We are
oh yeah.
30 viewers. Yeah, we're 30 folks are online right now listening to this. They'd be dropping if it was boring.
So alhamdulillah, I'm glad that. Well, thanks everyone for taking part. I mean, I'll tell you a funny story actually. This is I met a sheikh from Kuwait one time. I told him the story, and he couldn't stop laughing. So I reached a point where I just wanted to pray. I was so fascinated by these Sunnis praying Jama'ah. It really, I mean, it really emphasizes the sort of brotherhood you have in Islam. But, you know, I didn't have the resources as a Shi'i or from the Shiites. I didn't have the Shi'i community didn't have the resources to. I mean, I couldn't go to pray Salat Jum'ah anywhere with a bunch of Shia. So I ended up praying with Sunnis Salat Jum'ah. So it was Ramadan, and I'm working during the day, and that night, you know, after iftar, I want to dedicate some time to worship. So I went to a masjid not far from me, a Sunni masjid. It was open, and they were gonna pray Taraweeh. Now, for brothers who are unaware, Salat Taraweeh is actually bid'ah for Shia. Um, so I brought my tuba with me, and I just joined them in Taraweeh because I mean, what else is there to do? Let's look at let's make a contrast. I can go to a Shia masjid. I don't know when this was, but it might have been the last 10 days. I don't remember. I could have gone to a Shia masjid, put the Quran on my head, and just made tawassul. Back then, I had already rejected tawassul. I didn't. I mean, although I don't believe it's shirk, but I mean, what's the point of um, of having intermediary to Allah if you can just pray to Allah directly? There's many verses indicating that, and I mean, why wouldn't somebody want to pray to Allah directly? I mean, that's something I find baffling. What I mean, when you pray to Allah directly, if you're in a time of need, praying to Allah directly still makes you realize that I mean, of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And
Would you mind repeating that? Your voice was
well,
your voice was crackling slightly. When you pray to Allah directly, go on.
Sorry, is it now?
Seems to be some slight issues with your connection.
Oh, I'm sorry. Let me.
It could be mine. I hope. I don't know.
I mean, can they hear
Okay,
me?
it's fine. No, it's fine. It's fine right now.
All right. Sorry about that. So I was just saying that when it comes to dua, when someone prays directly to Allah, it sort of makes them realize the mightiness of Allah, that your issues are in His hands. Why would you want to take away that's I guess that belief? Well, it's not really belief. That exclusive.
I just want to share a thought on that. Subhanallah, I was reading how linguists define the term ibadah, worship,
No, the word
they pretty much
exclusivity.
Say again.
The connection is really bad, by the way.
Yeah, it seems like it's kind of dropped down.
Yeah, I can hear you now, but it wasn't. I mean, a bunch of what you said just cut off.
Okay. It seems fine right now, so please do carry on.
Sorry, I was trying to say I couldn't. It wouldn't come out. Exclusivity. That's the word I was trying to say. Yeah.
Okay.
So why would one want to deny Allah that exclusivity of Here is that's my point was dua tawassul. Why I don't see the point. I don't see why one why there is a need for intermediary to pray to Allah Ta'ala. Anyway, my point was that I mean, if you make a contrast between what Sunnis do on Taraweeh and what Shias do in the last 10 days, Dua Tawassul, I think that's more than enough to for sincere enough to understand I guess the profound difference between the two madhahib.
Right, right. So
I mean,
you're saying there's a
myself,
major
yeah.
contrast in the ibadah department.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. I mean, just look at Ramadan between the two madhahib. It's a perfect example, I think. Yeah,
I was about
perfect
to say
example. I think.
a little while ago that while looking up the definitions that linguists have defined the term ibadah slash worship as, they would say it's a high level or an above high level of submissiveness and humility. And that's, I guess, how you felt when you were making dua. That's what came to my mind.
I mean, the first time I ever cried in Salah was actually Salat Tarawih.
Subhanallah.
Yeah, Subhanallah, Subhanallah, and it's. I remember exactly what the Imam said in the dua. It was in the Ruku' and sorry in the Qunut. He said something along the lines of, I have nothing but you, Ya Allah, and that struck a chord with me, and I started crying. Like that got me emotional at the time. So I mean, I mean, ironically, very ironically, I've never cried in a Shi'i gathering, be it Hussein, be it Husseiniya, be it for whatever dua, Kumail or Tawassul or whatever. I never, it never, I mean, resonated with me as much as Sunni Islam did. See, I think even just walking into a Sunni masjid, you'll see a profound difference. Let alone the practices in Ramadan. So just to wrap up my story, I think I've gone a bit too long about my journey. It was a brother I met, and a Tunisian brother I met earlier, who sort of dug this idea of Tawheed into me, and he said to me, "Look, Abu Ammar, if you can prove to me Imamah from the Quran and the Sunnah, I'll become Shi'i. Otherwise, what else is standing between you and I but Imamah?" So we went home that day, and I done my research, and he done his, and I think, I mean, the evidences for Imamah in the Quran, I don't believe are strong enough. It's also a huge assumption, I think, the concept of Imamah. I mean, I myself managed to find that a few paradoxes if one was to believe Imamah is a part of Islam. So let's say, for example, if the Prophet ﷺ chose Ali to be the Imam, to be the Khalifa after him, so he's the first Imam, how would Ali choose the Imam after him? Now, we know during Ghadir, we know in Ghadir, يا أيها الرسول بلغ ما أنزل إليك من ربك ولم تفعل فما بلغت رسالته. So they believe that فما بلغت رسالته. First, they believe that that Allah directly commanded the Prophet ﷺ to choose Ali. Now, how is Allah going to command Ali to choose the Imam after him? Now, if you're going to say that Allah's going to reveal verses like He did with the Prophet ﷺ, then that's, I mean, that's what essentially what you're saying is that there's going to be revelation of the Prophet ﷺ, which is, I mean, absurd if you're a Muslim. This will be after after the religion was completed. So that's the first paradox. I believe. That's the first paradox which sort of helped me take my foot out of Tashayya. The second paradox, this is slightly more difficult. It's actually quite you can focus with me, it makes sense. So there's a hadith they always reiterate, and that is the hadith of the 12 khulafa that come after me, and kulluhum min Quraysh, all of them are from Quraysh. So if the Prophet ﷺ destined 12 imams, prophesied 12 imams after him, and we understand that the number is 12 because the final imam had to go into hiding because he was in danger. Okay, you're all with me, yeah?
Yep.
So if the final imam went into hiding because he was in danger, if we assume a case whereby, if we assume a scenario that what the Prophet ﷺ prophesied, what the Prophet ﷺ willed, in fact, what Allah willed actually happened. So Ali became the Khalifa after the Prophet ﷺ, then Al-Hassan came after him, then Al-Hussein came after him, all the way up to the Mahdi. So we're at number 12. Now he won't need to run away because he's not in danger. So would there be a 13th Imam after him? Or would it still be 12? The point here is that the number is 12 because essentially they were oppressed. So what, by essence, what the point is that if the Prophet ﷺ, the fact that he prophesies 12 means that he also prophesies that they're not going to be followed and they'll be oppressed, and they're going to, and what the last one end up running away. So that in itself is a contradiction. Does that make sense?
How's a contradiction?
Because he prophesies, he told us to follow 12 imams, right? He prophesies about 12 imams, assuming that we would follow them, right? The fact that, but it's the mere fact that we didn't follow them is the reason why they say 12. Does that make sense? They say 12 because we didn't follow them, because we oppressed them, and then the last one had to run away. So they say 12. The Prophet ﷺ would give would prophesize 12 with the assumption that we would follow these 12 individuals.
I think I need to sit down and write it down. You know,
that's the thing. It's quite mind-boggling. I think you need to sit down and try. I think I've written this in the Ex-Shia forum once as well. I wrote down clear steps to try. But I mean, in essence, what I'm trying to say is that the number is 12 only because the number is 12. We have 12 imams only because that they were oppressed at one point and the last one had to run away. If the last one didn't need to run away, so assume a scenario whereby the imams were looked after and they ruled as they should and so on, then there would have easily been another 12 after them. So
you know, there is an actual narration that mentions something like, you know, the time was supposed to be in the year, I don't know, let's say 30, and then the time became in the year 120, and then the time became in the year 300, something like that. And now the time has been, the hour has been hidden away because, you know, you people kept on exposing the hour. You know, there is a funky narration like that, suggesting that the time of the appearance or the time of the ظهور الحق, you know, the victory of truth and all that's good over evil was supposed to come several times, but it kept on being delayed because companions of the imams kept on sharing that information with others, something like that. I need to look it up. I don't know
how convenient, isn't it?
Well, yeah, I mean, of course, you know, that's where
Go on. If a Shia was to study Ghaiba itself, I mean, there's so many sects within Shia, the Kaysaniya and the Waqafiyya, and they all had their own concept of Ghaiba. That one believes that that Muhammad ibn al-Hanafiyyah will come back at a certain time, and the Kaysanite Imam would come at one point, and the Waqafi Imam would come from Ghaiba at one point. So, I mean, if Ash'aris should realize that ghaiba is not a concept that's exclusive to their madhab. It's
Right.
definitely not. It's something that, I mean, probably borrowed from one of the other madhab. Very similar to it's almost like a messianic belief of the Mahdi, which I mean, I want the Sunnis to realize this in the, I mean, uh, I hear this, I've heard this many times, is that for some reason Shias come to us sometimes and they question us about the Mahdi because they believe that our Mahdi is somehow the same as their Mahdi. Because we mention the Mahdi in our books and they mention the Mahdi in their books, and therefore, essentially what they're trying to say is our Mahdi is also the 12th Imam. And I think we should make it clear that it's not so much about the person that I'm talking about. No, it's more about the idea of what a Mahdi is. Their notion of the Mahdi is this essentially a savior of religion, right? Whilst our Mahdi is more a reformer, somebody who would come at a time of turmoil and basically, as far as I'm aware, just make peace in the Middle East, right? Whilst their Mahdi is well, as their books would say, it's out there to sell the score, if you want, right?
Right.
To sort of reinstate the true Islam back in the world, and so on,
Right.
which is
To
not,
bring
which is, I
to
mean,
bring back the Quran with the full commentary to
yeah,
to provide the Sharia that was not correctly practiced or hidden,
I
hidden
mean,
Sharia.
how absurd is that? I mean, if I mean, how disingenuous can you be? You have an imam who supposedly has the haqq, and I am in need of his guidance because I'm not infallible. I'm not an infallible person. I don't have the correct tafsir of the Quran. But this selfish imam has not only hidden himself, who has all the knowledge, he's the walking, talking imam, sorry, the walking, talking Quran, but he's also hidden the correct, well, the correct tafsir of the Quran, which I need for salvation. And he's hidden it from everybody. Now, what I mean, it just doesn't, it doesn't.
I know.
I mean, you have to be really insincere to sort of
Okay, so you see
have
that,
these beliefs.
Akhi, you see you saying that now. I'm going to ask you a tough question. Were you insincere back then when you were a Shia? Because you one day held those beliefs.
Um, I'm afraid, I mean, let me tell you how it was. If I was told, for example, oh, Ali married his daughter to Omar,
Hmm.
radiallahu anhuma, um, I would, back then I would have believed that there must have been some plausible explanation for that.
Mhm.
Um, uh, if if I was told Asma binti Umais was married to Abu Bakr before she was married to Ali bin Abi Talib, again, I would have thought that there must be some plausible. So it became a point where I guess this is a form of insincerity, yes, that I just tried to find excuses or sort of improvised ad hoc reasoning for whatever may fit in my madhab.
Mhm.
Yeah, that is a form of insincerity. So I think it's it's only I mean it's only how much you can take. If somebody can poke so many holes in your madhab, I mean you either can try to fill up these holes with these I mean weak founded excuses, or you sort of just so, at least admit that there might I mean your narrative might not be correct at the very least. So I think yeah I hope I've answered your question there.
I also had another question. Yeah,
Go on.
what type of advice would you give to Shias that are on the fence, that are struggling with their beliefs?
Um, I'll advise them I'll advise them with something that helped me a lot, and that is um, try establish for yourself imama by any means, Quran, Sunnah, or whatever, and be as sincere as you can be with yourself, and try
What do
establish
you
whether
mean?
or not this.
What do you mean
Yeah.
establish imama from the Sunnah? Because if you mean the Shi'i Sunnah, I mean there are a lot of narrations that are pro imama.
That's from the. I mean, from the Shia. I mean, Shia. I mean, the Shi'i Rajal is another topic of itself. I
Okay,
mean, it was.
okay, okay.
I mean, I mean,
So you're saying that even
the hadith that I mean,
of imama in
yeah.
Shi'i hadiths is problematic due to issues that revolve around authenticity and whatnot?
I mean, I mean, I mean, I knew somebody who was telling me about, for example, I mean, hadith from Bihan al-War, say, right? And this is somebody who was quoting from a prominent scholar and told me that apparently 80% of Bihal Anwar, well, I'll tell you two things about Bihal Anwar apparently. 80% of Bihal Anwar apparently is not authentic. Right? And the second thing,
That's a huge, understatement. It's much larger than
oh, really?
80%. Yeah.
Well,
Without a
that
doubt.
goes to show 80%. And apparently, I'm not sure if you're aware of this. The last 10 volumes, apparently Bihal Anwar is many volumes, but there apparently is a final 10 volumes which are not published because the hadith there are just too controversial.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're aware of this, but
Yeah,
I mean, this isn't a comforting thought if you're trying to go through Shi'i hadith to establish your own beliefs. With books like Al-Kafi, all you need to do is read the contents, and that should, at the very, I mean, if you believe in the fundamental, just the fundamentals of Islam, that should sort of shake your core a little bit. Just reading the contents of Al-Kafi.
I do agree with you on that.
I mean, I don't have much to say about what Shia is. I mean, if they come across a Shia hadith that backs up their belief on Imamah, because I'll be completely honest, when I was a Shi'i, even then I didn't take, I mean, because of the hadith I have come across from the past, because of the stories I've come across from the past, I didn't take Shi'i hadith that seriously. I remember hearing a hadith, something like Allah says to the Prophet ﷺ, if it wasn't for Ali, I wouldn't have created you, and if it wasn't for Fatima, I wouldn't have created either of you. Now, for any Muslim, Shia or Sunni, I'm sure this hadith is problematic for them. If they're at the very least call themselves a Muslim, this hadith must be problematic for them. So I mean, it even reached a point when I was Shi'i that I would feel more comfortable praying behind a Sunni Imam than a Shi'i Imam, because the Shi'i Imam, I mean, at least when it comes to Sunni Imams, well, at least to some extent, the beliefs are somewhat static. I mean, if you bring me a Sunni sheikh from Saudi and a Sunni sheikh from Tunisia, it's more likely than not that they would share the same beliefs. But with Shi'i scholars, you have some of them saying some really crazy things that would even make them fall into kufr. And so this, if the individuals within the madhab are so spontaneous, if you want, then it's a discomforting thought, I think. I mean, if one point is here that, because of the hadith I've come across as a Shi'i, because of the stuff that the Shi'i scholars say, I never took what they said as seriously as I did with Sunnis. I hope I've made the point clear.
I understand. I do understand. I was talking to Sheikh Rida Al-Hamoud, and he mentioned something very similar to that. He's an ex-Shia as well, Saudi Sheikh,
Okay.
and he said that a random Shi'i fellow came up to him asking him some random fatwa, and he said to him, طبعا, you do realize I'm a Sunni and whatnot. And the guy's like, yeah, but here's the thing. I want an answer from you, an answer that you would be, accounted for, and one that you would be, that on the day of judgment, an answer you would face Allah with, on the day of judgment. In that sense, it's for some random fiqhi matter. And then Sheikh Rida was saying something along the lines of, he said something along the lines of, and I realized that a lot of these people, they just don't trust their mashayikh, for that guy to be asking him, about
Yeah.
that specific matter. I can't recall what it was.
No, I definitely understand. I can definitely relate to that experience. I mean, like I said, I felt more comfortable praying behind Sunni imams than behind Shia imams, so
Right.
I completely understand. Yeah.
I'd like to open, the door, to some questions, if any of those on the chat at the moment have any questions to Abu Ammar or any questions to me, then please feel free to just go ahead and ask. Abu Ammar, if you want to share some more thoughts on Imama, because you mentioned that was one of your main um, one of your main issues with Tashayyu', please go on ahead.
Yeah. I remember when I first spoke to Hassan Shamrani. Him and I mean, we really clicked. We had that. It was almost as though we left the Shaykh for the same reason. It's when I explained to him the concept of imama, it doesn't make sense if you're a Muslim and believe in Khatm Nubuwwah, and he got it straight away, and it was one. It was really comforting at the time because it was when I first became Sunni and I wasn't really sure what I was doing, and when I explained, it's the first time I actually explained it to somebody, and he understood. So that's I think every Shia should. I mean, if I have advice for Shia now, it would be to, like I said, to try establish as honestly as you can imama imama within Islam. And if he is unable to do so, then he should also realize that he's unable to establish a fundamental core of Tashayyu', and he should really mull over that thought.
Allah barak fik, ya Aba Ammar. I just wanted to add, subhanallah, it's, Shia, subhanallah, as you said, it's an issue with reading the narrations. If more Shi'is read al-Kafi, read the chapters on Imam and al-Kafi, they would come to different conclusions about Imamah. I'm not saying necessarily that they'll stop believing in Imamah. I'm not saying that at all, but I'm saying that their views on specifics that have to do with Imamah would change. So, for example, I always believed that the Shia view is that Rasulullah taught, the names of all the Imams, or that all the names of the Imams were known. Of course, however, after reading the first chapters, not necessarily the first chapters, but Kitab al-Hujjah from al-Kafi, I realized that wasn't the case. And it was rather towards the end of the death of each Imam where the next Imam would be appointed. It was closer to that. So there are things like that. There are things that have to do with infallibility. There are all these aspects of imama that change, and are very different from what's commonly accepted and believed by Shias.
I want to add on to that. With regards to you reminded me. There's a really great article written by, I think it was Hani, in Shia.net, and he said the bit about before the imams die. Apparently, they explicitly appoint the next imam, who is supposedly the next imam after him. So apparently, Ali, for example, explicitly appoints Hassan after him, and Hassan explicitly appoints Hussein after him, Zayn al-Abidin after him, and so on. And this goes to show why is it the Prophet ﷺ was so vague when it came to his appointment of Ali. So it might be a bit unrelated, but I thought I think we should be aware that for every Imam, every Imam has explicitly appointed the Imam after him, apart from the Prophet ﷺ, who gave vague hadith here and there to appoint Ali after him. I think that's an important point to maybe end on.
That's a good point. That's a good point. Someone has a question for you. Well, before that, someone has a comment. Someone says, "Thank you, Abu Ammar, for sharing your journey to Sunni Islam with us. Your story certainly will be an example for all these Shiites who are searching for answers related to Islam." Someone asks, did you believe in Tahrif al-Quran while you were a Shiite?
No, I didn't. But I will say that I think this is a really touchy topic. There are Shia who I mean, I've met Shia who deny that Tahrif al-Quran exists in the madhab. I will say no. I have met people who have told me personally that they believe in Tahrif. So it does exist in the madhab. I mean, because for some reason people think it's. I mean, although yes, there are scholars that have explicitly said there is Tahrif, but people haven't met people personally. I will say that I have met people personally that believe in Tahrif. Alhamdulillah, I didn't fall into that dalal.
Alhamdulillah. I mean, yeah. Sometimes when people do fall into that, I wonder if there's any turning back.
I mean, how bad does it have to be that you know the Quran really doesn't fit with the narrative, that you actually have to change the Quran itself? I mean, that in and of itself just says a lot about the madhab, doesn't it?
Right.
Yeah.
I would have to agree with that. Let's see here. I think I missed one. I just need to scroll slightly upwards. Someone asks, someone said, sorry, I missed the beginning. Did the brother speak to any learned Shias about his doubts before he converted?
Yes, I did. With regards to, I called. There's a specific scholar I called actually. I don't want to say his name. I spoke to him about some hadith that I came across, which he said. I mean, some hadith that I found troublesome, which I came across, which, like for example, the hadith I told you earlier about, Allah creating the Prophet ﷺ. Allah only created the Prophet ﷺ. Sorry. If Allah had not created Fatima, He wouldn't have created Ali or the Prophet ﷺ. So he just dismissed this hadith as weak. He just said it to me, it's a weak hadith. But I found that even more troublesome because I have somebody else telling me it's authentic, and now you're telling me it's weak. I mean, this is a hadith regarding. It's a hadith which just goes in conflict with the core belief. So it's either authentic or it's not. It's not something that there can be a difference of opinion on. I did speak to one particular. I don't know if I should say his name on here, but I met with Muammam actually in what was it? It was in Edgware Road in London. Basically, we sat down and so he asked me about background and
this was after you became a Sunni?
Yeah, shortly after I became a Sunni. So I sat with this Muammam and it went a little bit off topic. I mean, he tried to say that it's Sunni within Sunni books that there exists Tahrif al-Quran, and back then I'm still. I mean, I regard myself as very ignorant as to these matters, but his strategy was to sort of whatever flaw you find within Sharia, just remember it also exists in Sunni Islam. And
it's quite the strategy. We're all doomed.
I mean, it didn't work. it really didn't work. I mean, we
Okay.
talked about Tahrif al-Quran. He tried to bring me a hadith about abrogation, which I mean, some Shia believe themselves anyway. He tried to bring me a narration about how Omar recited the Quran differently, which is I mean, it could either be a mistake or it could be, you know, back then they had before Uthman burned the Masahif, there were different dialects of the Quran. So it was sort of disingenuous evidences he'd bring. And then when the topic came of Imama and Ghaiba, he did not give he his evidences was not I mean
Not satisfying.
wasn't convincing, wasn't compelling at all. With Ghaiba, he tried to bring me. He tried to. I mean, you know what? He tried to prove Ghaiba to me when narration from Ali, saying that Allah, it's something along the lines of, "May Allah keep this religion strong, with or without the presence of Muslims," or something like that. And he goes, "See, this is a proof of Ghaiba." I said to him, "How does it prove Ghaiba in any way?" First of all, it's a narration from Ali. Secondly, if I mean a narration from Ali, not from I mean if you want to try prove ghaiba to a Sunni, you can't use a narration. I mean, you'd want to use either the Quran or the prophetic Sunnah, from the prophetic ahadith, to bring me a narration which says that. I mean, the concept of narration doesn't even allude to the fact of ghaiba at all. By the way, but you can't. What I'm trying to say is here, you can't use Shi'i ahadith to convince a Sunni about a Shi'i belief. It's not it's not going to be a hujjah against me. So,
Mm.
and then when it comes to the topic of khilafah, I mean, I think for any Sunni, it should be really easy to I mean, we did talk about khilafah, you know, why it should have been Ali and not the first three. I mean, me personally, I regard this as a political issue, not an issue that necessarily, not a religious issue as they make it out to be, not a Sharia issue as they make it out to be. And so I always go with the tactic, say, okay, do you know what? Fine, Ali should have been the first Khalifa. That's fine. We can go ahead with that narrative, and we should have been Abu Bakr. But what happens after that? Are you going to impose family rule, or Muawiyah impose family rule, and you're not happy with that? What gives you the right? And there's so many. I mean, I see we've gone overboard at the time. I mean, I mean, we could talk all day about this. But sorry, to answer the questions, yeah, I did speak to a couple of Mu'ammamin. I didn't believe we primarily talked about Imam and Khilafah. I didn't find the evidences very compelling, mainly because I don't believe it's an issue within the boundaries of religion. I think it's an issue. It's a political issue rather than a religious one. I mean, I think it's okay if somebody was to come up to me and say to me, Ali should have been the first Khalifa. That's his opinion. I can't even say it's a wrong opinion. It's fine. You can have that belief. Certainly be unpopular. But what's wrong with that? I mean, it was a democracy then, and yeah, that's all I've got to say regarding that.
Allah barak fik, Abu Ammar. Really appreciate your time, and I'm sure
Thank
that
you.
the folks on board enjoyed your journey.
Well,
I
thank
guess
you for having me.
Allah barak fik. I guess we're gonna wrap it up right there. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك.